Why does this video matter to relocation buyers? Let me tell you. Most relocation videos talk about vibes. This one talks about reality. I'm showing how homes actually sold, not how people think they sold. Data from over 2 years of closed multiple listing service sales, 2024 and 2025, is what this video is based on. So if that's the type of detail you're looking for, keep watching. This video is going to give you something most relocation videos don't: context. Most videos talk about lifestyle, weather, schools, or taxes, all important. But today we're talking about how the housing market actually behaves using real closed sales data from 2024 and 2025. I'm Jim Jock, and I'm a local real estate agent in the Plattsburgh, New York, and Clinton County area. I run a couple of channels on YouTube that do that, and I help people relocate here all the time from around the state, other states moving for work, people moving back towards family, a lot of times moving from bigger metro areas because they're tired of the rat race. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people bringing is expectations from their old market to our smaller rural market. We're a different market. So today we're going to slow things down and walk through where homes actually sell, how long they take to sell, how price, location, and even the age of the home changes the experience. And by the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer mental model of how buying and selling really works. Okay, so let's start with the big picture because everything builds off of this. You're going to see behind me is the map of Plattsburgh and a lot of Clinton County. That's our reference point, right? Clinton County is not one market. So this first part we're talking about, number one, is how the local market is structured. So Clinton County, about 82,000 people. Like I said, it's not one market. It's several different markets. It's a collection of micro markets, and Plattsburgh sits in the center because Plattsburgh is the largest concentration of people and things to do and all that. Plattsburgh is in the center. So when you look at the total sales volume and the transaction counts for 2024 and 2025 combined, Plattsburgh, the city and the town of Plattsburgh, is the engine that makes that work. It has the most buyers, it has the most listings, the most consistent activity. And that's important, especially when you look at what your timing looks like when you're moving from another area. Volume creates predictability. So the more sales in a given area gives you more history on the predictability that there are going to be homes for sale that might be appealing to you based on your circumstances in that market. Once you move outside of the city of Plattsburgh, as you see on the map, oops, over here, when you look outside the city in areas like Peru, Morrisonville, way up north by Champlain, and I think that's just north off the map you're seeing, but also West Shazy, the market is still there, but it gets thinner. The farther you are from the activity area and the hub of people, the less transactions and sales opportunities there's going to be. So it's still healthy, it's still active, but it's thinner. So that's an important differentiation because some people say, well, I only want something in a such and such school district. Well, that's great. And the more things that you add in that thinner area, thinner in less transactions, then the harder it is going to be to find whatever it is you're looking for. So you really need to be open about that reality. So thinner market areas outside of Plattsburgh behave differently. Pricing precision matters more. Overpricing gets exposure faster because they're like, wow, that's going to help you sell somebody else's house. Days on markets stretch sooner. So that's going to happen in those thinner markets because there are fewer activity going on. People are going to be a little bit more picky and you got to be right on the money. So this is the first adjustment that relocation buyers need to make, is realizing the difference in the markets and where those thinner market areas are going to be. So now that you understand the structure, let's talk about what people actually pay. because that's probably going to be different than where you're coming from. So number 2 on our topic list is the average prices by cities. And by cities, I don't mean metropolitan cities because we'd have one small city. What I mean is by zip code city. And it's not even all in one town because the towns will overlap where the zip codes are. And that's the nature of small rural markets. One of the most common questions I get is, what does a house cost in Plattsburgh? It's like, honest answer is it depends on where and how many people are buying there at the given time and the given price point. So the city of Plattsburgh has the highest number of sales, a moderate average prices, and very strong liquidity. So that's why averages here are more reliable in some of those outlying areas that we refer to as thinner markets, like West Shazy and Champlain and Ross's Point, those areas farther from kind of the hub of the activity in the county. That's why averages here are more reliable. When you look at villages and hamlets, averages can swing widely, and sometimes it's based on just a handful of sales. There was a $700,000 sale in a given town, and that doesn't mean the average home price is $700,000. It might be that you've got that one swing sale, but over a longer period of time, it might be significantly lower. So here's the key takeaway for relocation buyers. High averages don't always mean a stronger market. High volume always, almost always does, because there's more that it's basing it on. So outside of Plattsburgh, when you look at places like Peru and Morrisonville, those support higher prices. It's kind of closer to the hub. It's like that next ring out from Plattsburgh. So places like Morrisonville and Peru, and you'll see that off my shoulder over here, they support higher prices, but buyers are fewer and more deliberate. And this is where the expectations need to be calibrated early, both for the buyers and for the sellers. And why is that? The higher you go in price, the less people that are going to be looking in that price range. Whenever you go above what the average is, and we'll talk about that here shortly. But here's some predictors for you. Price tells part of the story, only part, but time tells the rest. How long has it been on the market? So let's talk days on market. Okay? So days on market is it's really the heart of this video. Days on market, or DOM, tells you how buyers are behaving with a given property or in a given area. So it's not just what they pay, but how long has it been on the market. So when you compare 2024 to 2025, here's what's changed. In 2024, the median home sold in about 26 days. Okay, not bad. In 2025, that moved closer to 28 to 30 days. It's only a little bit, but it might not sound dramatic, but psychologically it matters. 2024 felt urgent, and 2025 feels deliberate. So homes are still selling, but buyers are touring more carefully. They're not going to just settle because they got to find somewhere. They're comparing more listings. They're negotiating more confidently. The more houses you see, the better context a buyer has in whether or not they want to move forward. So 2025 sees it just a little bit more deliberate. So let's break that down by price, because this is where relocation buyers really get surprised. So the days on market by price range is what we're going to talk about next. And the cleanest takeaway from the data that the analysis that I did is based on, the fastest segment is homes between 150,000 and 250,000 consistently sell the fastest. Well, why is that? There's a broader buyer pool. It's the manageable financing. It's the price range that more people's jobs are supporting. There's a strong value perception. So the 150 to 250 is kind of that sweet spot for the most buyers. So what about the slow segments? Under 100,000 is one of those slow segments because the condition and the financing issues slow things down. So you may, like, say, take a house for $90,000. A house for $90,000 is usually going to have some condition or condition issues, or it's going to be older and not as updated. There may be a few kind of funky things about the house, and that's why it's priced below 100,000. If you look at stuff below 50,000, it gets even worse. It's not even, I mean, maybe it's habitable, maybe it's not, but the under 50,000 is number one. It slows, that market segment slows because it may not support a mortgage, so you might not be able to lend on it. That's an often big misconception is, well, I can afford 60,000, but a $60,000 home may require cash only for purchasing just because the condition isn't going to support a mortgage. And why is that? When a bank gives you a mortgage, they're expecting the home to be in good condition to support them lending you the money to buy it. And that might not be the case in that one. So let's look at the other slower segments. Over 300,000, the buyer pool shrinks. So that's going to affect days on market because there aren't as many people looking. And then over 400,000, pricing mistakes get punished hard. If, we had a really hot market a couple years ago, and if buyers today are still pricing for that market in the past, they might miss the whole boat. So pricing mistakes are really important when you start getting up into that higher range. So if you're relocating from a major metropolitan area, this is important because those numbers and how those market segments happen may be different numbers where you're coming from. But here, this is where the numbers are. So homes that don't sell fast because they're listed, they sell fast because they're priced right. Or the price, if it's not working, is adjusted until they find that right spot. So now let me show you something that surprises almost everyone. And I don't know if I ever heard anybody talk about it, but the age of the home. So on the East Coast, there's something, before I get to my notes, that you don't see in the West Coast. We have homes built in the 1800s. Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. It must be a dive. Are you kidding me? Some of the homes in the 1800s, built mostly like in the city of Plattsburgh and around, they have like foundation walls that are stone and they're this thick. They're just crazy solid. And all the settling on them has happened a long time ago. So don't think just because a home is older means that it's like really bad condition. Because like you'll also see in older homes, they've also been updated and renovated and maintained. Now, some haven't, and those get in that slow segment area we talked about before. But let's talk home age versus the speed of the sale. You might assume newer homes sell faster. Well, in this market, that's not always true. Homes built between 25 and 100 years ago actually sell the fastest. And remember, this is based on closed sales data 2024 and 2025. So why do homes built 25 to 100 years ago actually sell faster? Let me tell you why. They're established neighborhoods, they have realistic pricing, and they have fewer premium assumptions. So very new homes often sit longer, not because buyers don't like them, but because of price expectations overshoot comfort zones. New homes can be outside of that price range that most people can afford. And that's why sometimes you'll see newer homes will sit on the market longer. So very old homes take longer for different reasons. And that could be inspection issues, like condition issues, or if they had somebody do a home inspection. Very old homes take longer for because inspections, you get a contract, you do an inspection, something happens. Oh my gosh, that's happening. I can't believe it. They've got a stone foundation. What are they, stacked on top of each other? Whatever it is. Inspections are part of it. Insurance is another one. When you get insurance, when you get ready to close on your house, they want to know, well, what's the age of the house? And when was, if you say 1860, like my house, that's the original part. But the essential age of mine is more like in the 50s when major renovations were done, and insurance companies want to know when was the electrical updated? When was the plumbing updated? And you're like, I don't know. They're going to assume it's what, like you're lit by candle or something? I don't know. But very old homes take longer because of inspection issues, insurance, and renovation uncertainty. When was it renovated and how well was it done? Good question, because a lot of people do it themselves, especially when you have older homes, so you don't know how well it's done. It's not like some metropolitan areas that you may be coming from where, oh, well, the addition, like I'm in an addition on the back of my kitchen, that wasn't permitted, which means they didn't get a permit to do it. I'm quite certain, but that's allowed in this area because it's, like I said, the original part was a log cabin. They added the kitchen and bathroom behind it. They went out, added upstairs. Then they added the room I'm in, so they had a first floor bedroom. And most things like that weren't done with a permit because it's not required. So I do know that a lot of large cities, metropolitan areas, it's like you have to pull permits and see that, okay, this room there's a permit, this room there's a permit. That doesn't happen here. But renovation uncertainty can be one of those things with older homes that can affect it. So age isn't the issue, a mismatch is, when it looks at some of those things. Now let's layer geography back into this. Let's talk location and buyer psychology, if you will. So the city of Plattsburgh stays very liquid because there are always buyers. There are also a lot of rentals, but villages like Morrisonville or Cadyville can move a lot faster as well, as long as they're priced right, and that's because they're a lot closer to that center hub. They're like the next ring out. So when you look at things like, is a property, when you talk location, is it adjacent to the lake, or does it border a community that is desirable? That can often take longer because buyers are more selective, more seasonal, more discretionary. So no location here is bad, but every location has a different margin for error when it comes to the pricing and buyer expectations, because somebody might be willing to drive 15 minutes, and then there are sacrifices that you make for doing that, proximity to shopping, and granted 15 minutes here is 15 minutes. There isn't rush hour traffic that if you want to go 3 miles, it's going to take you 25 minutes. If you want to go 3 miles, it's going to take you 3 minutes, mostly, unless you get what I'm saying. So does all this mean, what does all this mean if you're planning to move here? Let's look at some practical takeaways for relocation buyers, because I know that that's what most people are looking at that are going to see this video. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Expect to have choices, not chaos. Those days have kind of moved from here. Expect negotiations, not bidding wars. You may still be in multiple offers, but not like it was. There aren't going to be 5 on every property you see. Expect to have time to think, not pressure to make a decision right while you're walking through the property. If you price and search correctly, then you'll have time to think. That's important. The biggest mistake a lot of relocation buyers make is assuming urgency that doesn't often exist, or missing urgency where it does. So it is important that when you decide to move forward on a property, that you do it that day. Because if you don't, it's like, yeah, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to sleep on it, or I'm going to think about it over the weekend. Those behaviors, you may have time for it, but that might also mean that you miss the opportunity. If you're relocating, you need to respond with the urgency that you have, in that you have to be here by a certain time, or you want to be here by a certain time, or maybe that's not the case. But if you find something you're interested in, move on it. Don't wait, because that waiting, I'm going to sleep on it. Really, what's going to change in the time if you've already pretty much know in your mind you're going to move on a house, what's sleeping on it going to do other than give time for another agent to write another offer and scoop it out from under you, potentially? Like I said, That does happen sometimes. If you're planning to move from wherever you are to Plattsburgh or Clinton County, New York, this is exactly the kind of data that I walk through with my clients before we ever look at houses. If this video is helpful, please hit the subscribe on the channel, hit the like, give me a thumbs up, drop a comment if you appreciate it, or especially reach out on my cell or email that you'll also find where you found this video. And if you're planning to move and want clear, honest guidance, reach out. This is what I do. I'm happy to help you get here with no surprises.